What is up, everybody? I'm Sam Claiborne at IGN with fellow Tolkien geek Justin Davis.
Hello, everyone.
We're going to be examining the second theatrical trailer for Peter Jackson's The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey, the first of the 3 Hobbit movies. I'm very excited.
Yes, I am also extremely excited. So, Sam, you and I both were not wild about this trailer at first, but then once we watched it more and sort of saw that it wasn't all comedy, it definitely grew on us.
Right. Yeah, and so here's Thorin Oakenshield. He's the leader of the dwarves, and he's the one who's really leading this quest to Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, with 13 dwarves, Gandalf, and now Bilbo. And Gandalf has kind of convinced Thorin at this point that he needs a master thief, and that they need Bilbo along with them. And so in this scene in the trailer, you're kind of seeing him question Gandalf and just think like, what the heck is this Hobbit going to be doing with us?
Yeah,
like, how is he going to help? Gandalf chose Bilbo partially because Smaug the dragon can't smell him. And he doesn't really tell that to the dwarves, but he still convinces the dwarves to take him along.
Yeah, I mean, Gandalf basically has a whole scheme. He's got a plan that he doesn't share all the details with anybody. He's sort of playing it close to the vest why he wants Bilbo to come along.
And here's Bilbo leaving without his handkerchief, a moment he refers to a lot in The Hobbit.
He famously runs out the door without his handkerchief, and then it's referenced throughout the entire book.
So here's Rivendell, and here's this is kind of relates to the topic we were just talking about. This is Galadriel. You may recognize her reprising her role.
Yes, and it's interesting.
Kate Blanchett.
It's already interesting that she's in Rivendell, which, maybe we do see her there in Return of the King.
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
She's always in Lothlorien.
Yeah, she's usually in Lothlorien, not in Rivendell. So that makes us think that what we're probably seeing is a scene taken from the meeting of the White Council.
Now they're meeting to figure out what to do about Dol Guldur, area of Mirkwood where there's a shadow, which they find out is Sauron. So on and so forth. Now, this is going to be a subplot in The Hobbit. We know that.
And again, this is something that's not actually in the Hobbit book itself. None of this is in here, but Tolkien did write about it. During the events of The Hobbit, chronologically, Gandalf leaves the book for large periods of time. He's just gone.
That's right.
And what he's doing is he's going on these adventures to, either investigate Dol Guldur or, he's meeting with the White Council. And so some of that stuff that he was doing chronologically, but Tolkien didn't write in The Hobbit, they're putting back in the movie. And this is, we're not positive, but this is most likely showing that.
That's right. So moving on, here is the famous scene from The Hobbit, which is also in the Lord of the Rings reference. This is Bilbo.
Yes, he's failing to
found
sneak
out.
Yeah. Can you go back to when he's got the knife? So he tries to sneak in and prove that he's a master burglar, but the dwarves sort of instantly discover him.
The trolls.
Or yes, excuse me, the
trolls.
trolls.
And they're massive trolls. You can see they kind of look. They look like the trolls from the movies, but the previous movies, except they look a little bit more like not like cave trolls.
Yeah, he does look
cave
troll.
Kind of emotive.
You can tell they're like cousins, though. It's still got that cave troll kind of face.
So moving on, here's Galadriel talking to Gandalf a little bit more. And here, I'm not sure if this is going to be a scene of Gandalf in the
Goblin Caves?
Goblin Caves, or it might be him at Dol Guldur. I don't know how much we're going to see of that in this movie. So here's Sting.
Yep, get a nice
Bilbo's
shot.
sword, which he, I guess we don't need to go into too many spoilers here, but he gets it previously, right? But it's glowing blue, and it only glows blue around orcs, so it's clearly the same thing.
And this is also, we see, this is obviously in Goblin Town, in the Goblin Caves, and you can see that it's very fire-lit, and it's very orange, and it's sort of got warm colors.
Not pitch. It's not pitch black.
That's true. And so that makes me think that the scene with Gandalf earlier probably is in Dol Guldur. Some nice epic vistas. This is interesting.
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is Rivendell because Elrond is there, but it's a different area of Rivendell, one that we haven't seen before. Really, really pretty. And is that ice?
Yeah, it's either crystal or... Yeah. Probably not ice. It probably is crystal because otherwise it would be melting. Obviously.
Whatever it is, this is like clearly, I think this is a Jackson riff on Rivendell because all we know about Rivendell is like it's a nice house. And you can see Elrond here. He's returned, a familiar face finally. And now Elrond is an elf and he does not like dwarves much and I don't think he believes much in this mission.
He does not.
And he makes a big deal about it in this scene. So this is my personal favorite part of the whole trailer. Let's make sure we can get a good shot of this.
What are those rabbits doing?
Yeah, this is a very quick shot of these giant rabbits pulling a sleigh with Radagast on it, Radagast the Brown.
Yeah, so Radagast is a wizard, or they're not actually wizards. They're Astari, like Gandalf. He's basically the same as Gandalf and Saruman, and there were 5 of these Astari total. 2 sort of hit Middle-earth and then immediately bounced off to the east.
Yeah, the blue wizards. They went off to the east. We never know. Maybe they're corrupted by Sauron.
Yeah, and then obviously Saruman ends up being corrupted. Gandalf ends up doing the work that everyone's familiar with, and Radagast is sort of he's the odd one or the strange one in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think he's
more
portrayed
Radagast.
as like kind of a coot, an old coot in a shack in this.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of as a wizard, he doesn't like do as much work as Gandalf or Saruman. He's kind of ineffectual.
Yeah,
and we don't hear about him in the books, but we do hear about that he's like totally preoccupied with animals.
Yep. Radagast is, he might be mentioned by name, but he doesn't have a speaking role in The Hobbit at all. He's not a big part of that movie. And he's another role that, they taken from the appendices and taken from supplementary material and put it back into the film. And he definitely plays a part. He's part of the White Council. Gandalf, I think Radagast uses his animals as like spies in Mirkwood to help supply information. And so it's cool that some of that's being put back in the movie.
And I think it's really interesting, too, that we're all trying to figure out where is this movie going to end. And this may very well be the latest scene that we've seen. Because,
chronologically, yeah.
Yeah, because basically in this, and we'll get to this in a bit, we're actually going to see the eagles rescue the hobbits from the wolves in this movie. That's after the Goblin Caves area. It's the 6th chapter in the book. But in this might happen after Gandalf leaves the party.
Yeah.
And goes to grab Radagast, and then goes down to the White Council meeting when they actually decide to purge. So this looks to be a spider leg coming into Radagast's house.
Yeah.
Now there's spiders all over Mirkwood. They're technically related to Shelob, and they really do horrible things to the Hobbit
And this
and
just looks-
the dwarves later on.
I knew, the dwarves have an encounter with giant spiders in Mirkwood Forest, but in my mind, when I was reading this book, I didn't picture them being quite that large. Like, that's pretty epic if they're going to do battle against spiders that are that huge, or that, they're sort of accosting Radagast.
Absolutely. All right, here's
Yes.
where it gets good. Here's we get to see the new Golem. He's a little bit more shiny, a little younger perhaps.
Yeah,
I mean, he's technically younger. But.
Some people, some commenters on the internet are saying Gollum looks strange. I don't know. I'm not sure that I like the way he looks. But what people need to remember is that, first of all, he is younger. The Hobbit takes place... Wait, did we ever look it up? But it's many, many years, 50, or maybe even 60 years.
Yeah, it's 50 years beforehand.
50 years before, so he's younger, and he also still has the ring. When we see him in Lord of the Rings, he's been without the ring for a long time, and it's taken a toll on him.
Correction, it's in his possession, but he doesn't realize he's lost it. And
Correct.
so in this scene, Bilbo actually has the ring, and he's riddling with Gollum to try to get Gollum to just lead him out of this goblin catacomb. So by this point, the dwarves have just dropped Bilbo while they're carrying him, and he's woken up, found the ring, and here he is with Gollum riddling in the dark.
Gollum has more hair on his head, his eyes seem brighter. I mean, he's just healthier all around. And this moment is, we're not positive, we think, well, actually, this is, now that I see it in slow motion.
So this is my theory on this, is that this is Gandalf showing up to freeze the dwarves with sunlight. He's kind of...
The trolls.
The trolls. Sorry, gosh, I keep making that mistake. He's cracking a rock in half and letting the light through. All right, so this scene is taking place after they escape the Goblin Cave, so this is probably one of the later scenes in the movie, if not the last scene in the movie.
Yep, you can see the wolves there. There's actually, we don't have word yet on whether the wolves, the wolves don't talk in The Hobbit, but we're not sure whether The Hobbit is going to have talking animals.
They're the kind of the servants of the goblins, though. So these are wargs. They're like horrible wolves. They look a little different from the ones in the Lord of the Rings
I think
movie
they seem more like normal wolves instead of sort of the hybrid wargs.
Here's something that really, really kind of troubles me and has me interested. These are these stone giants that Bilbo and company are kind of just annoyed by in the book. They're just kind of throwing rocks around, and I think this is something that Bilbo sounds like he just made up, because there aren't giants really canonically in the universe that much.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly, you make a great point. I mean, I think if people haven't read The Hobbit, what they might not understand is that this is a story that's being told from Bilbo's point of view. Like, he wrote it all down, and that's kind of what you're reading when you're reading The Hobbit. And so there's some speculation that he embellishes. He wants to make the story more interesting, and, you can't trust that every single thing in there actually happened the way that he wrote it. And so some people think that the stone giants might be one of those things that were just put in that way.
This looks like it might end up being a big action scene, though. So I'm a little concerned about that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really like this shot of not Elrond, jeez. Bilbo in Rivendell, and if you scrub forward, there's another one coming up in a couple seconds. I like that shot a lot. Oh, I like how the dwarves did his dishes there, and the hero shot of Thorin. But we get to see Rivendell in a little bit different way than we did before. And, I talked about that earlier, but I think it's worth repeating that, Rivendell is a location we already visited. And so to go back there, to make it interesting to people that saw it before, we see different areas of it. It's shot from different angles. And even though it's the same place, they definitely do a lot to make it look different.
So here's the dwarves escaping from the goblins again. This is going to be a big action scene, and this just looks fantastic. I mean, there's so many layers to the scene going on. It's just super cool. And I think it looks a lot like Saruman's pits that he has around Orthanc in the last
There's obvious
two
references
towers.
to, it does look like Saruman's pits that were all multi-leveled. This is obviously reminiscent of them running across the bridge in Moria.
With Gandalf leading the pack.
So you can see Gandalf in the bottom corner there, that he's once again leading the pack.
So this is an interesting scene. There's a little eagle leaving this dwarf's arm, and I don't know if it's like a little mechanical eagle or what is going on here.
Yeah, and this is something that
It's definitely not in the book.
Because my eye was drawn, right there towards to Bilbo, and I didn't even notice that eagle.
Yep.
And we don't know. Maybe it's a messenger. He's sending him a message. It looks like they're captured, but we really just don't know. That's something that's just a cool little detail for people that are.
And I'm excited about stuff like this because I know the book so well, so I want to see what's going on in the movie. This is very important. This is the eagles coming to save everybody at the top of this burning tree with the wolves that are at the bottom, and Gandalf started a fire. Probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
Luckily, they get saved by these eagles.
Yeah, so what's interesting about this is that this is most likely where the movie ends, either here or very near here.
And this is chapter 6 out of 18 of The Hobbit. This is out of the frying pan into the fire. That would make neat chunks for the next 3 movies to be the next 12 chapters.
Yep, so we don't know for certain when The Hobbit ends, but we know that it at least takes them all the way through the Goblin Caves and out the other end based on this scene.
That's right. So there's one more cool scene here. And by the way, here's a rock giant falling into a pit. It's not just a pile of rocks.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that the first time. I thought that was just rocks tumbling over the ledge, and you pointed out to me that that's actually, one of those 2 rock giants, tumbling down the cliff.
Maybe Bilbo takes it on.
Yeah.
So there's one more really cool scene here at the very end. Now there's 5 different versions of this trailer, and this version of the trailer is the Dwarf Ending. You can see the other endings around the internets right now, but this one has a new face. There he is.
Womp.
Who is that?
So we think that this is probably the Goblin King.
Yeah, the Great Goblin.
Yeah, if you look closely, he's got a crown on his head. He doesn't look exactly like a troll. He's got that giant floppy goiter on his neck that's just incredible.
Yeah, it's a great looking character.
Go back and have that flop around a couple more times. Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
It's good stuff. Thank you, Weta.
And so, some people are a little bit concerned about the humor that's put in this movie, with the Great Goblin falling on them and some of the other humor beats. But people need to remember that The Hobbit is a more lighthearted book than The Lord of the Rings. So, right. I think that this trailer is going to fit the tone much more better than sort of the first more somber one did.
Indeed. Well, that about wraps it up. So thank you, Justin, and thanks for checking out our analysis of the latest Hobbit trailer. We'd love to hear what we missed. There's a lot going on here. So leave us some comments, and for much more of The Hobbit, keep it locked to IGN.com.